Good morning, everyone. Buenos días a todos. Este mensaje viene en español después. My name is Gisela Escobedo, and I'm here with the Community Language Co-op. And I want to say thank you to the organizers of this event for practicing language justice. Thank you for giving an opportunity for all the people to participate and engage in the language of their heart, the language that they feel most comfortable in, or the language that they practice at home. To create this space, we're going to be using simultaneous interpretation. So when I finish saying this in Spanish, we will turn on interpretation and you will see a globe icon on the bottom of your bar that says interpretation. If you're not fully bilingual, I ask that you go to that globe icon and select your preferred language. If you're bilingual, you don't have to select a language, and you can also mute original audio so you don't hear both languages at the same time. If you're going to be facilitator or speaking during the meeting, please be aware of your speed so I can interpret as best as possible. Buenos días a todas las personas. Mi nombre es Gisela Escobedo and I'm here. Estoy aquí con la Community Language Co-op y quiero darle las gracias a los organizadores de este evento por practicar la justicia del lenguaje. Nos están dando una oportunidad donde todos podemos participar e involucrarnos en el idioma de nuestro corazón, en el idioma en el que nos sentimos más cómodos o en el idioma en que practicamos en casa. Para crear este espacio vamos a estar usando la interpretación simultánea. Así que cuando termine de decir esto van a aprender interpretación y usted va a ver un icono de globo en la barra de abajo de su pantalla que dice interpretación. Si no eres completamente bilingüe, te pido que selecciones donde está el globo, le des un clic y selecciones tu idioma preferido. Si eres bilingüe, no necesitas hacer nada. Si vas a estar presentando o facilitando, por favor, sé consciente de tu velocidad para poder interpretar lo mejor posible. Muchas gracias. Thank you very much. You can go ahead and turn on interpretation.
And Gabby, you can take us on.
Sí.
Gabby, no te podemos escuchar. We can hear you, Gabby.
Lo siento. Bienvenidos a todos. Gracias por estar esta mañana con nosotros. Es para nosotros muy emocionante ver acá tantas caras conocidas que están aquí para aprender de esto en este día. Como sé que tenemos muy poco tiempo, voy a pedir si nos pueden ayudar en el chat a poner su nombre, su pronombre y por qué están aquí, por qué apoyan esta importante campaña de la que vamos a aprender el día de hoy. Y pues como les dije una vez más, vamos a tener tiempo también para preguntas y respuestas. Lo vamos a estar monitoreando. Si por alguna razón no le contestamos su pregunta, le vamos a mandar un correo electrónico con la información que usted necesita. También quiero decirles que si usted se registró y no recibió su tarjeta por correo electrónico, por favor comuníquese con Carla. Va a poner Carla en el chat su correo electrónico, su información, Carla González, para que puedan comunicarse con ella porque ella nos va a mandar nuestras tarjetas, ¿verdad, mi Carlita? Muchas gracias por todo tu apoyo. Muchas gracias a Colorado Sin Hambre por pensar en nuestras comunidades y hacer esta campaña tan importante, estar impulsándola y hacer lo más posible. Entonces, me gustaría esta mañana hacer una actividad que se llama La Cascada y quisiera pedirles que por favor todos pusiéramos en el chat la información que les acabo de decir, su nombre, su pronombre y por qué están apoyando esta iniciativa. ¿Estamos todos listos? ¿Sí? Ustedes me dicen, doy unos minutitos para que ponga todo y cuando les diga la de 3, ya todos lo vamos haciendo al mismo tiempo, ¿de acuerdo? Entonces, vamos con el conteo. 1, 2, 3. ¡Vamos! ¡Listo! Por favor, todos ahí en el chat, pongan su información. Aquí estamos, esto es tan emocionante, de verdad, esto es increíble y sobre todo para mí estar en esta experiencia tan importante y esto que será grandioso este día. Sí. Listo. Listo. Y como que sé que tenemos poco tiempo, no quiero tomar más de los compañeros, entonces voy a cederle la palabra a mi compañera Judith para que se presente esta mañana. Gracias.
Gracias, Gaby. Es muy emocionante. Cuando cuentas tres, mandarlo todo juntos. Buenos días a todos. Mi nombre es María Judith Álvarez y yo estoy con SANA, que es la Alianza para la Nutrición Segura y Abundante. Y a mí me encantaría que pudiéramos presentar a nuestro equipo de organizadores que están el día de hoy acompañándonos. Así que me gustaría que nos dijeran su nombre y de en qué parte están o su organización, a este maravilloso equipo que ha estado reuniéndose con nosotros por las mañanas, los miércoles. Así que, por favor, si pueden prender su cámara y presentarse cada uno de ellos. Tana, ¿te gustaría empezar?
Hi, I'm Tana. I'm with the Public Food Project and I'm a she, her.
Gracias, Tana. Alex, ¿te gustaría continuar?
Hi, my name is Alex Malone, and I'm in Pueblo with the I Will Projects.
Gracias, Alex. Vi ahí a Cordelia. Cordelia.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. My name's Cordelia, and I'm from Food to Power, located in Colorado Springs.
Gracias. Y Carlita, ¿alguien más me falta del equipo que veas aquí? Que puedan prender su cámara y puedan presentarse.
Parece que, I think that everyone is here. Like anyone else that we need to like introduce here? I think that we got them. Yes, Judy. I think,
Tomás.
yeah. Tomás,
Tomás.
Annalise too. Annalise and Tomás too.
Annalise, can you go first? I was just finishing another phone call, and I think I sort of missed exactly what we're doing in this introduction. I'll catch up in just a second. Or are we just doing an introduction? I can jump in and do that.
Yes.
Wonderful. My name is Tomás Germán Palacios. I am in Durango, Colorado. I am here representing the Good Food Collective here in Durango, Colorado. I'm so blessed to be part of the wonderful organizing group that has helped to put this meeting together today. And very much excited. I think today is a day of celebration that we have passed the Education Committee and now are on to Appropriations. We are one step further to really making this a part of Colorado, where children are getting nutritious meals twice a day at school, and really changing the health and well-being landscape of our state and being a model for the rest of the nation. So thank you all for being here. Thank you for having me, and I'll pass it off to Annalise.
Maybe Annalise is not yet with us. She might have I think that she might have some things going on at home and with her kids. So let's take it over. So Maria Judith, if you can introduce the next person, that will be awesome.
Claro que sí, Carlita. Y bueno, gracias a cada uno de nuestros organizadores en este equipo. Y bueno, ahora voy a ceder la palabra al director ejecutivo de Hungry Free Colorado, a Mark Jacob. Mark.
Thank you, Judith. Welcome, everyone. My name is Mark Jacobson. I'm the CEO of Hungry Free Colorado. It is so incredibly exciting to have so many people on this call. They just keep coming and coming and coming. And I think, we're over 100 and it's just going to keep climbing throughout this meeting because there's so many folks. I think we had over 300 people that registered. And so we're going to have, it's just so much energy and enthusiasm around the state for making sure that we can provide healthy school meals for all students in Colorado. It's incredibly exciting. So I'm going to just talk a little bit about why this is so important, but you're really going to hear later on in the call from all the different folks, students and teachers and farmers and all sorts of folks who can really tell from firsthand experience. But I want to give you the big picture about what we're doing and why we're doing it right now. So we have a chance with this Healthy School Meals for All to permanently fix an unjust, broken system that has for too long kept students from being able to access the nutritious food that they need and that they deserve. We have seen with the COVID waivers that have allowed school districts over this past year to provide free meals for all students, what a huge difference it makes. We've seen so many more kids able to access healthy school meals and to do that without the shame and stigma of the free and reduced price lunch system that we've had for so long. We have an opportunity to learn the lessons from that experience. So I'm going to talk a little, I'm going to share my screen and talk a little bit about what are we looking to do with Healthy School Meals for All. So give me one moment. I have technical difficulties. Give me a moment.
¿Y ellos son los
All
que
right.
proveen la comida?
Can you all see my screen? All right, getting the heads up. All right, so what is the vision for Healthy School Meals for All? We can make sure that every public school student in Colorado has free school breakfast and lunch, all in every district, all across the state. We are looking at creating the resources, putting in place the resources, the infrastructure, and the training to allow all schools districts to be able to provide healthy, culturally responsive, locally sourced school meals. And we are looking to expand funding to make sure that we can boost the wages and provide stipends for those frontline nutrition department staff who are cooking, preparing, and serving food to our kids. And we know how important it is that the folks who are doing the work are being paid a decent wage and are able to provide food for their own families as well. And we have an opportunity to put in place committees and systems to allow parents and youth in all of our school districts to shape and have input into the school meals, what kind of meals are provided, and making sure that those meals are meeting the needs of our families and our youth. With these changes, we can create real transformational system-wide change that boosts the nutrition, health, and well-being for hundreds of thousands of Colorado public school students. And we all know that when students are thriving and are healthy, they're going to be able to learn and be successful in school as well. So it's really a huge boost for the health and well-being of our students and for the academic success and opportunities for our students. It creates a more equitable approach to school meals, and I'm going to talk more about that. And it strengthens our local food systems. It connects all of the amazing farmers and ranchers and producers all across Colorado who are producing food to our schools and making sure our youth have the opportunity to benefit from the bounty of our land in Colorado. So talking about equity, what this will do is eliminate school lunch debt. So many families struggle to make sure that their kids can be able to have meals, have meals at school. And so many parents don't qualify for free or reduced price lunch, but still struggle to pay for those school breakfasts and lunches. And so we put students in the place where and districts in the place where they're having to hound parents to pay back school lunch debt. And that is absurd and ridiculous and shouldn't happen. And we put students in a place where they go to lunch line and they're told that there's no money on their card and so they can't get regular meal. That's absurd and unjust and ridiculous. And that shouldn't be the case. And we can get rid of that with this Healthy School Meals for All. We can get rid of the stigma that is attached to this having haves and have-nots of those who qualify for free lunch and those who don't. There should not be haves and have-nots among 6-year-olds, among anybody, but certainly not among 6-year-olds, right? All of our students should be treated the same way in the way that they deserve, with respect and ensuring that we provide all of the best healthy, nutritious food for every kid without regard for family income. So important. We can, with Healthy School Meals for All, we can make sure that families are not limited in being able to access meals by having to fill out applications. So regardless of whether, because we know that applications create barriers, and particularly for our immigrant communities, who often fear providing data and where that data may end up. We don't want anybody, particularly our immigrant communities, to fear filling out an application, and for that to be a reason that kids aren't able to access healthy, nutritious meals. So Healthy School Meals for All would get rid of the requirement to fill out an application in order to be able to get access to a meal. So it eliminates that barrier for our immigrant communities. And by investing in all school districts in additional resources to get local, healthier foods, to support from scratch cooking, we'll make sure that students in more than just a handful of districts have access to nutritious from scratch locally sourced school meals. It shouldn't be just be students in a handful of districts that have the resources and wealth to be able to do more to have that healthier, nutritious food. All of our students in whatever district they're in should have that. So that's why this is so important. We can make this happen. These are changes that are possible. For too long, we've thought that the system is just the way it is, and that's how it is. But it have to be that way. And with Healthy School Meals for All bill, with all of y'all's support, we can create this change, and we can create a more just and more equitable system. So thank you very much. I'm going to pass off to Ashley Weyland, Director of Public Policy at Hunger Free Colorado, to give a little more specifics of what is included in this bill and how all of this works. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and pass Ashley.
Hello all, I'm Ashley Weyland. I'm the Policy Director here at Hunger Free Colorado, and really excited to have you all. If any of you have social media, I would definitely urge you to go onto Hunger Free Colorado's Facebook page. Hopefully Anya will handle mutes, but go into Hunger Free Colorado's Facebook page and share this. It's on live right now. And the more folks that see it, the more supported it will be at the legislature. So my pitch for some media, some social media, but let me share my screen as well, like Mark did. I should probably, you guys can also see when people are trying to come in, since I'm the person in charge of it, but let me put it up like this. Not sure what to do about that, but okay. So this bill, like Mark said, will mean that school districts who decide to participate, it's optional for districts, but we hope all will, but school districts that participate will get to basically get reimbursed for, so get funding for every meal they serve students. So it's not every student will necessarily get a meal handed to them. It's every student who needs and wants a meal at school will be able to get one, and the district will be reimbursed fully for that cost. Right now, districts don't always get fully reimbursed, and they at times have their own debts and they pay for meals, and then other times they pass it on to the students who don't qualify for school meals for all. And the income level for school meals for free and reduced meals is, for a family of 4, it's about $42,000. You have to make under $42,000, and that's really tough to do in Colorado to survive on $42,000 with 4 folks. And so we know we need to increase. We need every kid to be able to just get food. It's like books, and food is just as important as anything else when you're learning. So the big piece is every child who needs it can get it, and districts will determine how much food to make and provide that. It also gives districts money to purchase food from local farmers and producers. And a lot of times when they do that, it's healthier food, right? It's the apples and the peaches and the things right around that are sold in Colorado and produced in Colorado, so that districts can buy food and use it to do scratch cooking, which is healthy and a lot of times more liked by students and not as processed. It also has a program. One thing we've heard is a lot of staff on the front lines in our cafeterias at schools are some of the lowest paid in our schools. And so this legislation also has a program for school districts to be able to provide, to basically increase their wages or provide some kind of stipend to school nutrition frontline workers. So those who prepare the food and serve the food. So really the folks that are right there with the kids. Another piece is there's some help for school districts to be able to help, basically an organization helps school districts find the farmers and do the local procurement work and have healthier foods, and also do scratch cooking and professional development for those staff to learn about being chefs and cooks and things. And there's a grant program for that for school districts. And finally, we know that some school meals are not, could be better. And a lot of parents have told us they want their kids to have the option to have healthy and food that their kids like. So one of the things we know is important, that the parents and students actually have input with the school district. So if a district gets that money to buy local healthy food, they also have to create a parent and student advisory group. And that parent and student advisory group will provide the district input on what are the foods that parents want to see and students want to see, and what is like culturally relevant. What are foods that for different communities they want to see in their schools as well. So these are the 5 components of the bill, and it would be one of the most robust and best school meals for all bills in the country. A lot of states are looking at doing this as well. And I just wanted to also say, this last year, because of COVID, the federal government has paid for school meals for all kids. That is likely to end. The federal government and the Congress has not decided to extend that program for another year. We would really like to see that happen. And maybe Anya can put a link in to advocate that the Congress continue that. But if we don't act in Colorado, we go back to a situation where we have kids and parents and families who are really benefiting and that this food is really helping, going back to not having it and being able to and having to cover the costs of that food, even though the cost of living in our state continues to rise and things are way more expensive right now because of inflation. So I will leave it there, but take some questions. Since I'm on, I kind of want to leave this up, Anya, so maybe if you want to ask me the questions.
We will ask you the questions, Ashley. This is Carla Gonzalez Garcia. This is a time if you can raise your hand in the Zoom or place your question in the chat. That way we can, Ashley and Mark can start, answering the questions that you have about this proposal. Don't be shy, people. I know that you can do this. Oh, then we have a question. How are we looking to, what are the main obstacles to passage of this great program? What are the detractors saying?
Yeah, the detractors claim that this program, sorry, I have Carla in the view, but hi, Carla. The detractors are saying that we shouldn't spend money to feed kids who can afford it. There's no data to show that's the case necessarily. What we do see is districts seeing this last year with school meals for all being in place. We've seen, increases in kids eating, not all kids eating. So the kids and students that have a choice can still choose to not participate this year. But for example, in Mesa County, the school nutrition director testified that generally they have about 40% of their students participate, even though 50% of them qualify for free and reduced meals. And they actually have 70% of children eating this school year with school meals for all in place. And according to the school nutrition director, that really is, about 10% of the students who didn't want to eat because of the shame and stigma that qualify for free and reduced meals and won't eat if we have this stigmatized program in place. And then about 20% are those students who don't qualify, but their families really do need the help to cover the cost of food. And so he said it's just a better environment. It's a more welcome environment, and way more of his students are participating, which is exactly the result that we would like to see continue.
Thank you, Ashley. There is another question from Della Curry. How are we looking to fund this? I know that is usually the sticking point.
Yeah, funding is always difficult in Colorado. We have a very limited budget because of rules around collecting taxes. And so the budget, though, we're looking to have it funded by the legislature right now through the general fund. And we estimate the current package that is in the legislature, there's been some amendments, would cost about $90 million a year, which is actually less than a third of a percent of Colorado's budget. So really a minuscule amount of what the full state budget is to make sure that to actually have a huge impact on child hunger. So yeah, we're seeking the dollars from our state and from the legislature and governor to be able to make sure every kid has a meal while they're learning. And that's a major tenet of, we have a public education system, and our public education system should also include the food students need to learn.
And I would just add that by the state investing more money, it also brings in a lot more federal dollars for our schools as well. So the additional state dollars brings in at least $50 million, and probably a lot more than that in federal dollars to support our districts. And as Ashley said, this is an investment not only in our students, but in the success of our schools. If our kids are showing up in classrooms hungry and unable to focus, they're not going to be successful in learning. We can spend all the money we want on teachers and textbooks, but if kids are hungry, that all is wasted. So this is an important and critical investment in our public schools, as well as in our youth, in the success of our youth.
Yeah, and I would just add, Mark, thanks for that point. I should have made that. With how the bill is written, the legislation, it wraps around basically the federal reimbursement we would get, and it increases the amount, like Mark said. So actually the program would be covered, about 2/3 of it would be covered by the federal government, and 1/3 would be covered by the state of Colorado. So we really would be bringing in a lot more resources at the federal level to help. And other states do this and have been able to get a lot more of these federal resources to feed kids. And it's really time for Colorado to also have those resources.
So there is a comment on the chat by Natalia Pantelios. Sorry, I'm chopping your last name. She said, we can save some money in decreasing bureaucracy from application process. Definitely less stigma, greater mental health for kids. Can you speak to that, Ashley or Mark too?
Oh yeah, definitely. We agree. We would actually like to see applications go away completely. This bill would reduce the number of applications that districts have to get. I would probably say about in half, because of a federal option that the state could utilize in a lot of schools under this program. That would mean they wouldn't have to collect free and reduced applications. So we know that it would cut a lot of the need for a lot of those applications as well. And then the nutrition staff could focus on what nutrition staff really probably want to focus on, like healthier meals and working with producers and teaching their frontline folks more recipes. But yeah, it would reduce it. It's hard to know. Colorado is a very localized state, so we don't necessarily know the savings. But from a lot of districts, we've heard that they do have a few staff dedicated to collecting those forms, and we would hope that it would reduce some of that pressure on those staff members. It's a great point.
And then just getting to that point about mental health, that there's so many studies that really illustrate that the importance of nutritious diet and school meals in particular for the mental health of our youth. And, studies have really shown how critical it is, particularly among teenagers, especially. And those are our youth that are most likely to opt out of school meals because of stigma and shame. And end up, eating or not eating, or eating not so healthy food, and that really leads to greater likelihood of depression. And so really, by ensuring access to nutritious food for all of our youth, we are supporting both the physical and mental health of our students for sure.
There is a comment in Spanish that I'm going to read it in English. It says from Rita Diaz. Life in Colorado now is super expensive, and the income that you need in order to qualify for a family of 3 is not that great. With a family of 5, the cost of living is similar, like it goes up. So that's just a comment.
I'd like to add a comment from a former administrator's point of view. I was a director of operations for a charter school in Colorado Springs, and our school was 95 free and reduced. One of the things we did with our program was have meals in the classroom. And so this will be able to provide a program like that where teachers could have meals in the classroom. And what we found out was kids not only were eager to come to school, but they were eager to participate, and they paid attention after having something to eat. And then it was just one of those things that you thought, why weren't we doing this in the first place? Why weren't we, feeding our kids in the classroom? And this could provide for something like that. This whole entire bill is like, hey, why weren't we doing this in the first place? This is a no-brainer. I think we all need to get behind it.
Thank you, Alex. There is another comment from Lorena Limon in Spanish. I'm gonna read it in English. Something about the money that the school districts in Denver, the school district in Denver, that is like no using it. It's very little for nutrition. However, they spend millions in policing. And another comment, my district uses the applications to secure Title I funding. Is there another way to secure this funding?
There is, but it's, in Colorado, a lot of ways, one way to secure more funding is to do a ballot initiative and go to the voters and ask for the money. And that's something being considered.
Actually, I think the question's about the free and reduced price lunch being the way that Title I state funding is distributed.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, different. Yeah. Okay. So there's actually another bill, House Bill 1202, that we think will pass, is bipartisan support that changes the at-risk funding from being determined with free and reduced lunch applications to actually using other programs to count at basically a direct certification, which is very wonky, but basically using Medicaid and other programs to basically directly determine which students also qualify for the at-risk funding to determine how much a district gets. So it's a little wonky, I know, but basically using data rather than applications. And we strongly support that because the stigma and administrative costs, as well as, for folks who may be in mixed immigrant status families, filling out applications is scary. And we shouldn't be determining how we fund our schools based on applications. And so that bill is likely to pass, and it's nice that it aligns very well timing wise with Senate Bill 87 for school meals.
And I would just add it, it's that alternative is based, there's a national think tank that was commissioned, that was created, that was asked to say, what is a better, more accurate way, more effective way of actually counting kids that doesn't require, rely on these applications that we know many families are not filling out because of immigration, fear around data privacy and other things. And so that alternative data that Ashley's talking about is is not only gets rid of the reliance on these applications, but it's going to be more accurate and do a better job of counting the kids that need help and ensure that districts get those districts that need additional state funding get the additional state funding, and not so it's actually going to be a much better system. And so yes, there are other ways for that districts will be distributing those dollars.
And there is another interesting funny comment, like how much teenagers eat, and definitely and definitely they go hungry during the day. But actually, I would love for you to talk a little more about actually how older kids a lot of times don't eat because of a stigma and shame. Can you speak to that, please?
Sure. So the data shows that as children get older, they realize that they're being differentiated out by income level. So you actually see a decrease in students in high school eating at school. And while, which is even worse right now, like you said, with like folks have said, the prices of food and everything is up right now. So, I mean, I was actually a student like that myself, where I didn't necessarily want to eat at school when I was a kid because of that, and would eat a ton when I got home. So I know that there's kids that are hungry, and as they get older, they're much more likely to drop out and not participate in getting free and reduced meals.
Thank you, Ashley. I want to touch upon also a little more about the piece of local procurement. And in this case, how it's going to help our farmers, small farmers, and also our BIPOC farmers. And I don't know also if Roberto Mesa is in our line, but maybe Mark and Ashley can speak to that. And if Roberto is here, maybe he can add a few words.
Sure, Mark, do you want to go ahead on that one? We can share the stage here.
Sure. I mean, I think the reality is, right, that often our locally produced food is going to cost a little bit more, right, than food that you might bring in, but it adds so much value and benefit to our local producers. And so, in acknowledging that, food is probably going to. Sorry. Got muted. Because the reality is that local food often costs a little bit more, we need to invest in some additional resources for districts to be able to purchase that local food, and particularly to make sure that we can support our small and mid-sized farmers. And one of the awesome things about what this legislation does, it not only provides additional dollars for school districts to be able to spend maybe a little bit more to be able to purchase food locally, but it also invests in supporting growers associations, to prepare farmers to be able to sell to school districts. It works to support districts in purchasing the kinds of equipment, processing equipment they need to be able to take food that directly comes from the farm and be able to use that, so that the farmers aren't having to sell to an intermediary processor that then processes it and takes some off the top before it gets to the district. So it cuts out some of that, the middle people, and which puts more money in the hands of farmers and gets that food directly to school districts. So that is my, that is kind of some of the kind of pieces of how this really works to invest and support our farmers.
I can also jump in here, Mark. Hi, everyone. Roberto Mesa. I'm a first-generation farmer. And for me, this bill is super important because it brings together two very important links in the supply chain. We want to ensure sustainability, dignity, and an opportunity to regenerate and transform our communities from seed to plate. Healthy school meals require healthy soils. And this is as much about feeding our communities as it is about addressing environmental stewardship, worker dignity, animal welfare, all of these important elements that will ensure the longevity of agriculture and food production. If we don't shift our practices of how our food is grown or how we think about food in general, we're really risking our entire livelihoods in the future. We really need to do our part now to ensure that we can continue to produce food sustainably and with dignity in order for our agricultural workers to continue. I also see an important role here for young beginning and BIPOC farmers who continuously struggle to find access to land and resources. By creating a market that enables us to feed our communities, we're much more poised to be resilient in the future. And so this is a comprehensive ecosystems understanding for something that should have been in place from the very beginning.
Thank you, Roberto. So there is a question, as Carrie has her hands up. Carrie, would you like to talk about your question or a comment? Oops. I think that we lost her. So there is a by Brandon, there is a comment here in the chat says, at least there should be rules of implementation for like a formula to ensure the government provide funding to cater. Oh, I'm sorry. Is Kara here? Okay. So,
Okay.
María.
Sí. Yo no entiendo mucho lo que está pasando, ¿verdad? Ok, lo que entiendo que están haciendo como una cadena, granjeros, ustedes como comunidad hacen todo la unión, ¿verdad? De lo que quieren lograr con los desayunos saludables. Yo mi comentario es, ya tengo 2 jóvenes ahora. De que eran niños, yo iba al lonche con ellos. Siempre esa escuela les proveyó su desayuno, almuerzo, lo que ellos pueden dar, ¿verdad? La escuela. Pero yo veo que los niños no se comen la comida. Quisieron hacer comidas saludables. Les daban quesadillas de queso con, ¿cómo se llama? Con verdura, brócoli, espinacas. Y muchos no están acostumbrados a la verdura. Siguen creciendo y no, las hacen a un lado. Les quitaron esos desayunos. Se llenaban botes de leche que se tenía que tirar. La leche que se quedaba no la podían ni regalar porque no era permitido que la escuela hiciera eso. Entonces todo eso se va a la basura. Es dinero tirado a la basura. Uno trata a los hijos, en mi caso, de tratar de darles lo más saludable. Tener en casa cosas que uno preparara. No comida hecha de fuera. Preparar aquí. Siempre traté de mantener a mis hijos con esa comida. Pero da la casualidad que ahora ya dijeron algo muy importante. Son jóvenes y llegan a una edad en que usted no puede decir, levántate y desayuna. Porque tienes que estar bien mentalmente comido para que puedas pensar y estudies. No, ellos salen con el estómago vacío. Comen en la calle. Si ahora ya tienen un peso, no van a comerse el lonche de la escuela porque es todo lo de día a día, es lo mismo todos los días. Entonces no se lo comen. Y si traen un peso, van mejor a las tiendas y compran los taquitos de 2 por $1, X. Entonces es lo mismo, pura comida chatarra. A mi casa les llega un programa de bondadosa, se llama. Les trae manzanas, leche 1%, lo más saludable que pueden. Las comidas vienen ya nada más para calentar. Una comida por día para calentar. Pero como les aburre lo mismo todos los días, así como llega esa comida, se va a la basura. Yo rescato, ya les digo que no me manden, porque yo rescato lo que es manzana, lo que más yo puedo preparar, leche, pero es difícil tirar todo este tipo de comida de todos modos, porque a lo mejor ellos no se la comen, pero hay gente que sí la necesita. Sí es el tema que están tratando, y esto se ha visto de que yo estoy en este lugar y en escuela con esos jovencitos, niños, todo el tiempo ha sido lo mismo. Se tira demasiada comida. Hay mucho dinero, mucho presupuesto, o consiguen mucho presupuesto. Yo sé que siguen ustedes peleando por tener algo bueno, importante, pero esta cultura también es de comprar comida en la calle, la mayoría. Así sea la más barata que encuentren, tienen que comprar porque muchas madres trabajan todo el día y no tienen tiempo de cocinar. Pasamos, recogemos a los niños y vamos a pasar rápido a cualquier tienda a comprar comida y coman. Y gastar lo menos que se pueda, porque sí la vida está muy cara. Esa es mi opinión a esto que está pasando.
Gracias, María. Roberto, ¿tienes tu mano? Do you have your, yeah.
Sí, gracias, Carla. Y gracias por los comentarios, María. Yo la entiendo porque yo pasé por esa etapa de mi vida donde en mi vecindario en California, por ejemplo, no había acceso a comida fresca. Todas las calles estaban llenas de McDonald's, de Wendy's, de mucha comida que estaba allí muy accesible y yo lo veía en la televisión, me daban un juguete y me estaban indoctrinando pues para generar el ingreso a esas corporaciones, pero al costo de mi salud. De hecho, yo pasé por un momento muy difícil en mi juventud, donde empecé a experimentar muchos desafíos de mi salud. Y eso fue lo que me llevó a entender y explorar cómo me puedo aliviar yo mismo. Y esa fue la manera en que me llegué a ser granjero yo mismo. Después de mi primera temporada en el campo, en una farm en Ohio, salí de ese momento de mi vida con una salud que nunca he tenido en mi vida. Y lo que tuve que hacer es como desaprender mucho de lo que ya estaba condicionado a entender de la comida. Pero cuando empecé a meter mis manos en la tierra, empecé a hablar con los granjeros, aprender su historia y establecer esa conexión, vi que era más que la comida, era la relación que yo no tenía con mi comida ni con los productores que la estaban haciendo. Entonces, esa historia, ese cuento me dio una relación increíble y tuvo un impacto muy grande para mí, que decidí cambiar mi carrera totalmente. Lo que quiero dar a entender es que me dio mucha inspiración el hecho de aprender dónde mi comida viene. Y eso me dio la oportunidad de ser parte de una comunidad, ¿verdad? Ahora lo que estamos combatiendo es el advertising de muchas otras corporaciones que no quieren que nuestras comunidades sean saludables. Y eso es algo que necesitamos que entender nosotros. Esta oportunidad con esta legislación nos va a dar ese punto. Yo veo que no se entiende el español.
So, Roberto, I think it's because that the interpretation that is happening. So since probably because you are bilingual, so when you are speaking in Spanish, they don't hear it. So I'm gonna ask really quick to the bilingual folks that are still speaking English, so that way we have our interpretation going on in Spanish. Also, a quick reminder, those that didn't get their gift certificate, so please email me. I'm gonna put again my email, so just email me so that way you can get your gift certificate. And Rita has another question or comment. Go ahead, Rita.
Can I just say one thing, Carla? Sorry.
Sí. Oh, yeah.
Oh, and Roberto, beautiful. Like that's how I think Roberto's response was beautiful about we learn about our food with more information and knowledge. And that's what would happen with this program. You know, the school nutrition departments could focus on preparing food and helping students be more willing to eat healthy. But that starts at the base. That starts with the school nutrition departments not constantly being worried about covering the costs of every meal. Most of them are in debt to cover food because they're not reimbursed fully for the meals that they serve. And then also the other piece is that's why we built in the student and parent advisory committee so that we could work, so that the school districts would work with parents and students to meet that goal, to have students be more open to healthier foods. It's a long-term goal, I know, but you know, I think we've seen an increase in kids eating this school year in most districts because there was a gap and these students needed this food. And so I definitely agree, Maria, that there's a lot of work to do with teenagers on liking healthy food, but once you have the investments needed in it, I think there's a lot more possibility that they'll be open to that.
And just add real quickly, like teenagers want to choose, they want agency. And so if you have teenagers that are leaders that are on these advisory committees that are helping to impact it, they are the voice for their fellow teenagers to talk about these school meals and to be agents for, to push and encourage their peers around these issues. And so if you create leadership opportunities for teenagers around making these school meals, and I've seen that in work that I've done in the past, like teenagers want to shape and impact their own meals. And if they have that opportunity, they're gonna be more likely to participate and engage when they're given that opportunity to lead.
I'm gonna give now to Rita because Rita has been waiting for us. So Rita, if you wanna do your comment or your question, and I see you're with your little child there. Hi, Siri.
Hola, ella se va. Sí, yo nada más quería comentar, no estuve escuchando muy bien lo que dijo el otro muchacho que hablaba español, también parece, porque no se estaba escuchando en español, pero referente a lo de las comidas, yo solamente, pues bueno, me interesa mucho porque como se está viendo, mi niña ya está en edad preescolar y ella va a empezar ya el kindergarten. Tengo una adolescente también que ya terminó la high school. Pero en el verano, durante el COVID, nosotros estuvimos yendo a lunch gratis y lo estuve recogiendo. Mi niña no se lo comía, pero mi hijo sí. Entonces, cuando yo empecé a comer el lunch, lo destapé y también lo empecé a probar. Mi pregunta aquí es, las personas que buscan los fondos, las ayudas y todo, ¿cómo se puede hacer para que la comida sea realmente saludable? Porque aunque hay mucha gente que sí necesita el lonche, ¿verdad? Que sí necesitamos los desayunos, los lonches en la escuela, pero en realidad lo que se les da, los burritos de frijoles, las tortillas están crudas. Los que vienen con jamón con queso, eso está aguado y está mojado. Eso no sirve para nuestros hijos. O sea, nosotros estamos buscando lonches saludables, sí. Y como se dice la palabra, saludable, no comida cruda. Las pizzas que se les dan, algunos de ustedes que están aquí en este chat, no sé si las han probado, pero eso es masa cruda, es masa. Eso no es saludable para nuestros hijos. Eso yo no creo que les sirva para... pueden tener mucha hambre y sí les va a quitar el hambre por el momento, pero no es una comida saludable. A lo mejor se van a enfocar en ese momento, van a aprender más en poco momento, pero a largo plazo es algo malo para su cuerpo y para su salud. Entonces, ¿qué es más importante? La vida de nuestros hijos, su salud, su bienestar, de que tengan nada más algo que comer, su educación, porque en realidad la educación, el tener que comer y la salud tienen que ir de la mano. Y lo que se les da en esos lunches, al menos los que yo estuve probando en el verano, casi todo es puro crudo. Sí hay días que les daban verdura muy bien, los días que tienen manzana, los días que tienen vegetales o fruta, eso está muy bien porque no está crudo. Y pues nada más ese era mi comentario, que a las compañías que hacen esta comida se les debería de pedir, o a las personas que lo cocinan o algo, vienen ahí las instrucciones y todo de cómo calentarse, cómo prepararse todo, pero realmente es una comida que no es buena, no es rica, y nuestros hijos a lo mejor no se lo comen en la escuela y lo terminan tirando. Todos esos fondos que las personas están teniendo estas reuniones para juntar los fondos terminan en la basura porque no es comida que les guste a los niños, no es comida saludable, se puede decir. Gracias, ese es todo mi comentario.
Thank you, Rita. I mean, really quick, because they were talking about it, Rita, about how, yeah, we have heard about that. And one of the things that we want to do with this proposal is also start like forming like a community council or a teenager, you know, like youth council, to make sure that they are also part of the conversation in order to bring things like this and to make those changes. Because unfortunately, when community is not involved and putting pressure to those school districts that are not doing a good job with that, then we can't have what we need for our children. So, and that's kind of like the accountability, correct? There is no accountability. Unfortunately, there is no training a lot of times for the cafeteria workers. They are the ones that are the lowest paid jobs in the school district. So with this bill, part of what we have also is to provide stipends for cafeteria workers, so they can get a little more of those monies, because the other thing that's happening is like there are cafeteria workers that are leaving, and cafeterias that don't even have right now people to do that, because they can find jobs in other places that are going to be paid more. So there is a crisis going on. And this proposal is try to tackle those issues that unfortunately are making, that are not allowing us for our communities to be healthy as a whole, correct? So with this proposal, we are trying to tackle those things. Thank you, Rita. That was right on. Your comment was totally right on. Lorena, do you have a comment or question?
Sí. Disculpa, como está diciendo como dijo la señora, los desayunos, las comidas, sí son muy, o sea, no son muy saludables. Pero voy a hacer una pregunta: ¿por qué siempre a nosotros, a nuestros estudiantes de las escuelas, mayormente del suroeste, les dan la comida enlatada, y en otras escuelas de donde hay anglosajones, donde hay gente de dinero, ¿por qué las comidas son tienen su propio jardín? De ahí mismo les hacen sus comidas diario? ¿Y por qué a nuestros estudiantes que son latinos, morenos, por qué les hacen las comidas siempre son enlatadas en las escuelas? Esa es mi pregunta.
Your question is like, once again, talking about structural racism, correct? You're talking about how, there is a whole entire, like if we even go back a little further, we need to talk about the taxpayer bill of rights, if you have heard about TABOR, and also how school districts are funded, which has to do about where you live because of property taxes. So if you live in a wealthy area, then we happen to have a lot of white privileged people, then you're gonna have everything good. Look at Boulder, y'all. Boulder is a great example of this. Boulder has this sophisticated, like big infrastructure, chefs, and all these things. Why do you think is that? Because of money. Because there is no an equitable distribution of resources where all kids in our state are gonna get what they deserve. Because if you're brown or black, you're screwed up. Because how this system is designed, even with the schools, is designed to literally put our families down constantly. And that includes even how the food is made. And with this bill, what we are trying to do is tackle those inequities that are already happening within a system that is designed to do that, Lorena. So that's what we are actually trying to do with this bill, to tackle that structural racism that is happening right now because of how schools are funded right now. Adrian was the next one. Adrian, would you like to jump in? Let's go then to Erika. Erika, you're mute.
Oh, ok, one moment. No, supuestamente tengo el micrófono prendido. ¿Está bien que hable en español?
Ahora está bien. Ya, sí.
Ok, les comentaba, buen día, yo vivo en las montañas, en Rifle, Colorado. Y estoy viendo que ustedes están hablando sobre Denver, ¿verdad? O sobre la ciudad. Yo quiero enfocarme un poquito. Ok, todo. Ok, perfecto. Para hacerles saber que de igual manera aquí en nuestros condados tenemos un pésimo servicio de comida para nuestros niños. Es de igual forma, me imagino que en todos los alrededores. Y yo quería ver de qué forma nosotros como padres pudiéramos ayudar para que esto mejore. Porque de hecho mi hijo el mayor, él nunca comía ahí, el mediano es un poquito más accesible, él sí come, pero llega con mucha hambre porque en realidad me dice, mamá, es que la comida no es buena, no sirve, no esto. Entonces, cuando llega a la casa, yo ya tengo que tener algo preparado para que él pueda comer, porque en la escuela no lo hace, solo se come la fruta y eso. Para mí sí es importante que sean comidas saludables, que empecemos a enseñar a nuestros hijos a comer saludable, porque si no lo hacemos, yo lo hago aquí en casa, entonces tenemos que empezar a hacerlo también en las escuelas. Ese era mi punto de vista. Y si podemos hacer algo.
Thank you. Thank you so much. You are right on point. And like once, something that we were talking before is that part of this bill has a clause, like something that we are asking within this bill is to be able to create like a console, like, you know, by community members, formed by community members, so we can create the accountability infrastructure to press school districts to do the right thing. Does it make sense? So right now there is no system of accountability. There is some school districts do have that, which like we applaud that, correct? To have that accountability system, but many of the schools don't. So that's what we are trying also to tackle with this policy, to create that accountability system so you all can have a voice and can be like, I demand this because our kids deserve better. So that's the whole entire point actually about this proposal, to create that bridge for you all to be able to speak up, like bring your voice and be loud in order to create those changes. So Soira, sorry, you were there waiting. Thank you.
It's okay, I can be patient. Good morning, everyone. This is a great conversation and I love where this is going to, and everyone that's here. But I just wanted to mention as well, I think our schools need education, and we're talking about money, but there's money that needs to be given to the schools and to different regions, but also our parents. We live in a generation where we're always running, we're always busy. We get fast food for food because there's no time to cook at home. I don't have any children, but parents that have kids in different schools, pick up, drop off, whatever. I think education, it's important also for parents, not just for the schools, but for parents and also for the children. Like Roberto was talking earlier about knowing where your food is coming from. That's a great source and a great way of knowing, hey, I have a small garden in my house. This is where our tomatoes are coming from. We can cut them, you can take them for snacks. Just a reminder that for myself as well, that I need to get educated, but if we could get funding for even a community garden at their schools or local schools or at their homes, that way parents, children, and teachers and the staff is working together to work better, to eat healthier, because it's easier to go buy a burger at the McDonald's than making your own salad, because it's costly, it's pricey. But if you know where your food is coming from, if you know what it's doing to your body as well, because if you eat junk when you get older, it's going to catch up. And I think we all know that. So if we start young to learn that veggies are good, because we are actually harvesting our own vegetables and our own food, it's going to be exciting not only for the children, but for the parents and for our teachers and even for the doctors, because they're going to see less health issues. So I think it's a lot about education and where our food is coming from. I just wanted to point that if we could get, in my dream, a community garden at each school and at our homes, it's just something that is going to transform our communities.
Thank you, Soira. Thank you so much for that beautiful comment, because yeah, I completely agree with you. And now, folks, I am so sorry. I'm going to be the mean bruja which here I'm gonna need to cut this conversation because we gotta get going. So, I mean, a cute bruja though, so. So we gotta get going. So I apologize, but we will have another opportunity and we would love to get you again together so that way we can keep having these robust conversations to help us to put pressure and keep moving and to be that change that we want to see. Because if we just complain about it, we are not gonna do shit. But if we can keep working together to like be able to do those changes, that's how we're gonna be seeing what we want to see in this for our kids and our families and our whole communities. So now I'm gonna actually introduce our wonderful panel. These folks, each one of them brought to their testimonies to a couple weeks ago to the Education Senate Committee at the Colorado Capitol. Let me tell you a quick story that you don't know. So before we had our the Senate Committee hearing, we needed to negotiate with them to postpone the votes because we didn't have the votes to pass a bill. And guess what happened, y'all? We had around 40 people that show up, that we worked together, organized to bring them the strongest like testimony line that you literally, I mean, it was one of the strongest slides I've ever seen in my career in policy. I was like almost in tears because everyone came super strong and ready for the fight. So the votes were postponed because we didn't have the votes. Even the chair of the committee didn't want to vote yes on this. So after the testimony line, he went to the sponsor, the chair of the committee went to the sponsor of the bill and said to her, I want to vote yes because the testimonies that I heard today. That's how we create change laws. That's how, because if you don't come and show up, they're gonna do whatever the hell they want. So this is the thing, people. I wanna introduce you to each one of these folks that came and showed up that day, super strong, and made possible for our bill to pass the Senate, the Education Senate Committee. And now we are going to the Appropriations Committee that we are gonna keep organizing to like press and to pass this from the Appropriations Committee. So I'm gonna really quick, I'm gonna introduce our amazing panel. So I'm just gonna give you the list, but if you all can, when you speak, if you can introduce yourself, that would be amazing. So first, we are gonna have an amazing student ambassador, Danielle Syracinsky. I'm sorry, Danielle, I must shove your last name there. Then we're gonna
Syracinsky, not bad.
Then we are gonna have Gabby Medina. Then we are gonna have our fabulous Jasmine Ramirez. Then Roberto Mesa. Then we're gonna have Dean Vidal. Man, Dean just rocked that day in the committee hearing. Everyone was like, oh, I'm listening to this. And then we're gonna have Della Curry, an advocate in our communities that was actually in NPR in a national news with a story that she's also probably gonna tell us a little. Please, folks, you have 3 minutes really quick to tell why you are supporting Healthy School Meals for All from your perspective. So Daniel, get us on.
Yeah, so my name is Danielle Syracinsky, and I'm a student ambassador for Save the Children Action Network, and I go to the University of Denver at the moment. I'm a sophomore right now, and I'm studying international studies and business analytics. So I'm kind of really passionate about kind of looking at data and looking at statistics and then using that to create change. And I have really focused on doing that in terms of free meals for Colorado. I think, and I was able to do some of this by like writing a letter to the editor, which was able to get published. So I've tried to always work super hard on trying to make the education system as best as it could be, especially from my perspective as a student, as I was just in high school 2 years ago, and I still remember a lot of my friends or just a lot of people I know saying, oh, I'm so hungry, like I just wasn't able to eat lunch today because I ran out of lunch money. And that lunch money was a really huge barrier to a lot of the functioning and learning of kids. And I mean, just as someone who also at one point probably had to benefit from free and reduced meals in middle school, because my dad was laid off, I really benefited from this program, but I didn't really want to tell anyone. And in school, there's always this huge stigma. Everyone always cares about what you wear, kind of what you have. And having free lunch really kind of, it's something to be ashamed of, especially in that kind of social hierarchy that happens within students. And kind of one thing is I really want to get rid of this kind of hierarchy. And I think one of the reasons for that, and well, I think one of the ways we can do that is to give free and reduced lunch to all kids. And I mean, one thing is that Colorado's been doing this now for about 2 years, and they've been able to pay for it. No, I believe this is just a really vital program that should really keep going. And I think that this is just from my perspective as a student, like we absolutely need this, especially since, I mean, we have no choice but to go to school until we're 17. So at least when we're there, about 8 hours a day, we should at least have some lunch with it. I mean, again, I heard before in one of the comments, it's just a no-brainer.
Thank you, Danielle, so much for your input. And like, you know, his story was super powerful and was one of the first stories that the community here heard that day, and they were all like, whoa, okay, so we are listening to you. Thank you, Danielle. So Gaby, take it on.
Gracias, Carlita. Pues mi nombre es Gaby Medina. Yo soy una madre de familia y también soy un conector comunitario. Y trabajo con mi comunidad en Denver y con otras comunidades cuando he tenido oportunidad. Y para mí es tan importante que este proyecto de ley pase porque traería muchos beneficios. Para nuestros estudiantes habría igualdad, equidad, éxito, mejor rendimiento académico, cero deudas para muchas familias, que ahora en estos días lo vemos tan común. Mejor preparación para el futuro para nuestros estudiantes, que todos tengan las mismas oportunidades y empleados mejores pagados para que puedan hacer mejor su trabajo. Eliminar el estereotipo que implica el presentar una aplicación y que nuestros estudiantes tengan que enfrentarse a ese reto, las familias, sobre todo nuestras familias de color, que a veces tienen temor de...
no contesta.
Perdón, creo, Mari, tienes tu... A ver, lo siento. Enfrentarse al reto de tener que llenar un formulario o poner información en un papel que para ellos, cuando un estatus migratorio no es bueno, a veces las familias no quieren hacer. Y esto tiene como resultado que los estudiantes no reciban su almuerzo escolar. Y esos niños muchas veces se van a la cama sin dormir, sin poder dormir porque tienen hambre. Al día siguiente se quedan dormidos en la escuela, por lo menos llegaron, hubo un alimento, lo que pudieron comer, lo comieron y después pues tienen sueño. ¿Dónde está el aprendizaje? No tienen energía para aprender. Esta pandemia ha demostrado que hay muchos problemas en los sistemas y deben de ocurrir cambios y los cambios deben de ser pronto. Hemos visto que familias se han tenido que enfrentar a los retos de tomar una decisión tan difícil como es o pagar su alquiler o tener que comprar cosas básicas para la familia como es la alimentación. Hemos visto muchas familias sufrir por quedarse fuera de casa. Esta pandemia ha demostrado que necesitamos cambios y gracias a que estas oportunidades nos dan, hay que luchar y luchar todos en conjunto para poderlo lograr. Ningún estudiante debería de pasar la vergüenza de tener que recibir un documento de un adeudo para sus padres o que les tengan que marcar la mano con un número y estar todo el día en la escuela para que recuerden a sus padres que tienen un saldo vencido. Eso no está bien. O hay estudiantes que tienen la oportunidad de salir a comprar un almuerzo escolar. Hay otros estudiantes que no tienen dinero y tener que pasar esas vergüenzas o esos sentimientos los perjudican también en su sistema emocional, en la salud mental que hemos estado viendo. Las comidas escolares no deberían de ser un privilegio, deben ser un complemento en la educación. Y yo entiendo, yo valoro a todos mis padres y a las personas que han tenido la oportunidad de compartirme sus historias para que yo pueda traerlas. Juntos podemos lograr que nuestras voces se hagan más fuertes y que el Congreso nos escuche. Estos cambios tienen que surgir por todas las problemáticas, por todas las preocupaciones que tenemos padres, maestros y los mismos estudiantes que son los que ellos sufren. Por favor, yo te pido a ti que me estás escuchando, únete a esta campaña, llama a tu representante, involúcrate, ¿cómo puedo hacer yo un mejor cambio? Yo sé que a veces tenemos muchas quejas y también sé que a veces los almuerzos que reciben nuestros estudiantes no son los mejores, pero yo me pregunto, como padre, ¿qué estoy haciendo yo para que ese cambio resulte? Pregúntate tú lo mismo y es el momento de acción. Por favor, necesitamos tus voces, necesitamos todos estar juntos. Gracias por escucharme.
Thank you, Gabby. Always super, super inspiring. Thank you for your words. I'm going to take it to Jasmine Ramirez. Jasmine, are you in now?
Sí, aquí estoy. Buenas tardes a todos. Gaby, qué palabras tan impactantes, ¿verdad? Para todos nosotros que estamos aquí. Yo voy a hablar en español también, si está bien, Carla.
I want to make sure that our Spanish speakers can hear you. So you all can, the Spanish speakers that in the interpretation, can you hear Jasmine when she speaks in Spanish?
No,
Jasmine,
Carlita.
No?
Tendríamos
So
que quitar
Jasmine, tendrían que quitar, okay. So Jasmine,
I'll speak in English.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, so I was just saying thank you, Gabby, for always sharing such powerful words with all of us. I'm sorry, my toddler is here. Hold on just 1 second. So I'm Jasmine Ramirez. I'm a school board member at the Roaring Fork School District. But most importantly, I'm a mom. I'm a mom in my community. I have a 4-year-old and a 6th grader who's going to turn 12 this year. So we're still in our preteens. And I live out here in rural Colorado with some of the fabulous leaders that we have on here today. Maria Judith, Soira. I saw some other parents that we have over here in the Roaring Fork Valley. And I just really wanted to share that for me, during the pandemic, when all of us saw that our families were really struggling, we noticed very quickly that the food equity and the food access was a huge, it was probably the widest gap that we had in our community. And so, myself and a couple other leaders very quickly were able to start doing some food distribution. And as an elected, when you're out there in the community and you see a lot of these situations and you're wondering what can we do and how can we do more, this bill very quickly became an opportunity to say, we need this, our community needs this, our students need this, our family needs this. It's just so important for the infrastructure and for the fabric of our state and for our students and for our families and our communities, especially out here in rural Colorado, where we know that we live in a food desert and we shouldn't have to, right? I think for me, one of those really real stories and just memories that lives in my brain is having having families come through the food line who were so distraught because they didn't have access to food, who were so distraught because they they just really didn't know what they were going to do if they didn't get a food box. And when you live in a community where you feel so hopeless and so helpless and trying to make sure that your families and students have enough to eat, it quickly becomes a priority. And I think, you know, for me as a mom and as a member of this community, I feel so strongly about making sure that all of our students and all of our families don't have to worry about having food on the table and don't have to worry about if their kids ate at school. It just shouldn't be a concern. It shouldn't exist in our state. It shouldn't exist in the nation. I hope that, you know, this is a conversation that the state of Colorado brings forward for the rest of the nation. I'm so sorry, my toddler's here. But you know, I think ultimately we need to be very mindful that our students are the future of the state, and we need to make sure that they're receiving not just adequate, you know, not just an adequate education, but that they're able to really truly have an education where they're not worried about food, where they're not worried about you know, if it like home problems that include food. And so for me, this bill, this legislation gives us the opportunity to close a gap, even though it's not, you know, it gives us the opportunity to close a gap, not necessarily fix it, right? Because we still have work to do. There is still strategies and things that we need to do as a community to make sure that that we close the food gap at home. But at school, this shouldn't be a concern. This should be just a reality that all of our kids have access to food. All of our kids have access to a healthy meal. All of our kids are not concerned about if they have any money due. And I think this is the way that we start moving progress for our state and for our community, to make sure that all of our students can focus on their education, can focus on making sure that they get good grades and that they feel more secure in our classrooms. So I think all of you guys, I think everybody who's had a hand in this, everybody who's getting involved, everybody who's been involved, all of the leaders who are doing food distributions across the state, you know, we need you guys, and we so appreciate the work that you guys do and have been doing. And we so appreciate the thoughtfulness in making sure that this is at the forefront of you know, getting done this year. And hopefully, you know, this is just the beginning in regards to making sure that all of our students across the state and all of our families, that we close that gap on food access and food inequities. Thank you.
Thank you, Jasmine. Thank you so much. And I going to Roberto Mesa, and just to remind our panels, 3 minutes because we gotta do an action too. So Roberto, go ahead.
Thank you, Carla, and thanks everyone for sharing such great words and some great passion, speaking from the heart. I want to really focus on the farmer's perspective. My name is Roberto Mesa. As I mentioned earlier, I'm a first-generation farmer. I was born in Mexico and came here when I was 5 years old and traveled like so many other immigrant families across communities. So I was exposed to all of the different inequities, economic, social, that really separate people from each other. It really had an impact on me, but I wasn't able to articulate that until I got into college and was able to understand the history, right? For me, history is very important. As a farmer, I understand that agriculture in the United States is rooted in stolen land and forced labor. That paradigm of extraction continues to manifest in our communities by creating food deserts, by widening the gap of those families that are economically privileged to access food and those that do not. This legislation gives us an opportunity to reclaim that history, to reclaim our food systems. And for ourselves as farmers, specifically as Latinx farmers, it's important to understand that we also comprise the largest workforce in agriculture. And as I put in the chat, a quote from Cesar Chavez, we're also the ones most exploited in agriculture, right? A lot of the immigrant families and a lot of agricultural families are underpaid and food insecure themselves, right? So they have students that also go to school with hungry bellies. They go to school to and they get food that isn't nutritious enough to help them thrive. And so we're caught as immigrants in this country in this cycle of poverty and disenfranchisement. What we need to do is have a complete revolution of our values. What is it that we value? Are we valuing the bottom line of corporations, or are we trying to value sustainability, dignity, well-being, so that we can continue to thrive and break the cycle of poverty and disenfranchisement? So for me, it's important that I'm doing this as a farmer, but as a steward of our future generations, advocating for agricultural workers' rights, in addition to food security for all of our students. I want my people to thrive, and this is an opportunity to advance in that way. It may not solve everything, but we have a window that we can actually make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you, Roberto, for always bringing it down and like talking about the historical context of racism and how our families and communities have been exploited and keep being exploited continuously, and mostly our agricultural workers that to this day, actually, a lot of states, they don't even have the minimum wage, and they are working in like really bad conditions in order for us, privileged people, because we have a roof and we have food, can have nice meals in our homes, many of us. So I'm gonna get now to Dean Vidal, our commander.
Good morning, Roberto. Good morning. I'm humbled by your words, brother. We farmers have an important job to do, and you speak of it eloquently. Thank you. Hello to all of you. I'm Dean Vidal. I'm a farmer. I'm also a member of the La Plata County Food Equity Coalition. I and colleagues are working to improve access to healthy and nutritious food for all, starting first with our BIPOC residents who are traditionally underrepresented, but then also expanding beyond that to our rural and elderly residents, regardless of race, who may feel left behind. So I want to share a message with you this morning specifically for those who place a high value on traditional family values and who may be hesitant to support this bill. I hear you. Each of our children, though, all of our children, will benefit from healthy school meals. By way of introduction, I am a farmer. I'm a career naval officer. Thank you, Carla. I was a commander in the Navy, defense contractor. I'm a practicing systems engineer, and I'm a grandfather, like many of you. I assist my wife, Susan, Brightwood Farms farmer-in-chief, and we harvest nutritious fresh vegetables 52 weeks a year using the farming methods that Roberto just spoke about so sincerely. They really work. We know how to produce really, really good quality food. And we're happy to share that with anybody who wants to grow a tomato plant in a pot. There's information out there how to do this. I want to respond a little to Maria and Rita's observations about children throwing away food. I agree with you. You cannot trick a child into eating food that is not good for them or that doesn't taste good. They know it right away. However, growing well, we know how to grow good quality food that children will eat. I will share with you that my customers routinely volunteer to my wife, Susan, when they pick up their vegetables, that their children just love this stuff. It's great. How did you do that? They didn't eat like this before. I can share observations that my granddaughter, when she's at meals with us, she'll first eat all her salad and vegetables, and then if there's protein on the table, yeah, she'll eat that too, but she goes first after the vegetables. So we know how to do this. When young people are given access to truly nutritious vegetables that also taste good, not the ones poorly grown that so many of you speak about and have seen your children turn away, but if they are given good quality food, they eat them with relish. They're excited to do so. I've seen it in action. So why not give all of our children in Colorado similar opportunities to experience food that's good for their bodies, their minds, and their spirits? As parents, we each have a responsibility to educate our children about what's right and wrong, including what's right to eat in order to achieve their best potential. Talk is cheap. Let's show them by our priorities in supporting this bill that we know that an investment in consistent, nutritious food during the school day is important for our children's futures. I spent 4 decades in uniform and in civilian clothes supporting the national defense in parallel with over 2 decades as an organic farmer. Colorado provides our state's military cargo planes the right fuel to fly to meet their missions. Shouldn't we ensure that our state's students, similarly, are given the right fuel that they need to accomplish their mission? School, learning, growing. My years aboard ship and as a Navy Seabee commanding officer have shown me that my family is larger than a few people who share my surname. I encourage all of you to view that we all have a responsibility for the health and prosperity of our communities. The pre-COVID school food assistance program really wasn't cutting it. It's unintentionally hurting all of our students, regardless of economic status, by causing division, stigma for many, and an uncomfortable feeling of superiority for others. That's not the America that my father, that our grandfathers fought for during the World Wars, to give everyone the opportunity to put their individual talents to best use and to support the larger American family. This bill can fix those problems and reduce administrative burdens as well. As an organic farmer, my wife and I have studied for 2 decades how to produce food that helps improve people's health. Let me assure all of you, parents especially, that the medical conditions we see so prevalent among our children, obesity, early stage diabetes, ADHD, and a host of other conditions, including classroom discipline, many of those originate from eating poor quality food. We feel it, we know it, we understand it, we can fix it. We have the chance to show Colorado's students the important positive impact of eating nutritious meals regularly. This can become a positive habit for them to carry forward as they become responsible and prosperous adults. They and our state will benefit from the investment. I thank you for your time, and I will mention, Carla, I'll share with you a write-up that I sent to the Senate sponsors of this bill, where I too am concerned, like you, about the quality of the food. That after all this effort, after all this opportunity, let's make sure we're giving the children the best quality of food that we can. And I provided 2 pictures of 2 possible futures based upon how the language in the food purchasing parts of the bill, how that could be written and how that could come out with one much better future than we see now, and then one that just has everybody singing. I could picture all those smiling faces on the other side of the food line just kind of humming to themselves and singing when they're serving food that smells and tastes so good. They would do it with pride, and all of the children, believe you, all the children want to eat in that. Nobody wants to pass that up. They're not going to go out to McDonald's when they can be with their friends, when they can eat food that tastes so good. And I think our folks know how to do that. So thank you. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Dean. And you just said something that I just want to quick before our last panel. Is like, we have to vision that. We have to keep dreaming of the things of the possibilities that we can have. Because if we don't dream about those, or we don't have visions about those, we won't be able to accomplish. Like when when our indigenous communities were taking over, when they were trying to exterminate us, like they thought that they were exterminated, correct? But they didn't know that we were seeds. We are seeds, people, and that's the seeds. We will flourish, and our plants, everything, we will grow. And that's the thing that we need to keep dreaming about, the possibilities. So our last panelist is going to be Della Curry. So Della, please take us up, 3 minutes.
Thank you, Carla. So I come from a cooking background, and I started my school food journey with the School Food Project in Boulder. And that was an experiment of a wealthy white school district choosing to throw their resources into school food. We created healthy, good food that I would eat. We had salad bars in every single school, so the kids could pick what they wanted, so it wasn't getting thrown away. That's how I started. Then a few years later, I started working for Cherry Creek School District as a kitchen manager. Also extremely wealthy, extremely white. They chose not to put any resources into school food because most of their kids could afford food. Actually, their spokesperson said there are no hungry kids in Cherry Creek. That was their official statement. I was working in a wealthy elementary school that had the kids that were falling through the cracks, the ones whose parents had gotten divorced, the ones who were living with somebody that didn't have custody. And the protocol for me was if they came through my line and they didn't have enough money, I was supposed to take their tray of food away, throw it in the trash can, and hand them a hamburger bun with a slice of American cheese on it. I chose not to do that because it's cruel and it's heartless. And there was no way I was going to give a first grader that humiliation and that nutrition. So I was fired when it was discovered that I was giving free food. And I wrote a Facebook post about it. It got to the attention of a local newscaster. I did an interview about how cruel and inequitable our school system, our food system is, and it went viral. And I was on Good Morning America. I wrote an op-ed for Washington Post. And what I discovered is that this is an issue everywhere. And there are so many kids who fall in the cracks. And there's absolutely no reason in a country as wealthy as this one, with more money than any country has had in history, that we cannot feed our children 1 to 2 meals a day. And so I used that platform, and I still am, to fight to make sure that no child ever has to have that humiliation and that hungry belly. So thank you, Carla. I'm really glad to be here.
Thank you, Dela. Thank you so much for being the fighter, you know, for being like a subversive in a system that once again tries to put our communities down. That's exactly an incredible example of a structural racism, and people like you and many others that go against the system in order for our children to have at least one healthy food. Thank you to all of you that are doing that, even if that costs your job. So thank you all. And now I am so sorry, but we gotta get this going because now we have just less than 150 people and we were had at some point 175 people. And I wanna keep you all because we want to make sure that legislators hear from us loud and clear that we want this. So for this, we are gonna do all what is called an action. So we are gonna like everyone, I want you to like make sure that the social medias of the legislators are going to be floated by our action. So I'm going to share my screen and, and I'm going to put here some of the messages that we are going to be working on in order to make sure that legislators listen to us. Okay, just a second, you all. I'm going to give you the steps of what we're going to be doing. Okay, folks. First of all, number 1, if you can, please get your Facebook or your Twitter, whatever works for you the best. Please get that, okay? I'm gonna give you like a few minutes. Get your Facebook or your Twitter. Just a few minutes, couple minutes I'm gonna give you, get there. Everyone, I'm talking about everyone, even me. Okay, I think that you got into your
Carlita,
Facebook.
¿puedes poner uno de esos en el chat? No.
Oh, because I can see, yes, of course. So I'm gonna put, thank you, Maria Judith. So I'm gonna put the some of the messages in the chats for those that can't see right now, okay? Just a second, everyone. Good thinking, Maria Judith, thank you. Okay, I'm putting here the list of the different messages that you can put. I'm sorry, it's a little like all together, but you can part it off. So, okay, so everyone get your Facebook or Twitter. So pick one of the sentences that aligns the best with your values, with your principles, okay? So everyone, I got in my Twitter, I'm gonna be, right now you have a few minutes to write down what is the message that aligns the best with you, okay? I'm doing this so that way we can all know the time, okay? I'm picking, for example, no kid deserves to go hungry. Our future generation deserves to grow safe and healthy. Okay, I'm gonna give you a few more, you know, a little more time because this could take a long time, I noticed. Okay. Keep writing, folks. I'm gonna give you some time because I want those legislators to have floats with, you know, social media like cannot take over here. Oh, is someone can like, there we go. Okay, so now I'm gonna also put it in the chat. These are the different handles that we are gonna be using in this to tag legislators. In one column, you see that we have Facebook. If you are using Facebook, you tag your legislators and you have it here. And in the other, not your legislators, sorry, the committee, the Appropriations Committee, where we're gonna press them to make sure that they pass this. So in the other column, you have the Twitter handles for legislators. So if you're using Facebook, please use the Facebook handles. If you're using Twitter, please use the Twitter. So I'm gonna put it here right now, just a second, in our in the chat, that the handles for Facebook. Just a second, you all, okay? I'm gonna put it here. And yes, I will be emailing this too. Don't you worry, people, because I need you to do this. And I'm gonna be, also we're gonna be tagging our governor, Jared Polis. Just a second, folks. So the one that I'm putting right now is on Facebook, the handles for Facebook. Now I'm gonna copy the handles for Twitter if you are using Twitter, okay? Just a second. And yes, no worries, I will send this to you in your email as well. And I'm gonna copy Jared Polis' Twitter handle as well. So he knows that we are like, that we are here for this. I'm gonna give you a few minutes to you all because I was copying this, so I want to, you know, make sure that I have these folks here.
Carla, can you move that page up a little bit so we can see the rest of the hashtags?
Oh, yes, there you go. Can you see the hashtags? If you are a hashtag user, there are the hashtags, and I'm gonna put it in the chat as well. I like hashtags. I like my silly hashtags though. And yes, don't worry, folks, I will be emailing this as well. So just a second, I'm like trying to get here too. Okay, everyone knows, don't send it yet. Don't send it yet, okay? Don't send it yet. We are gonna be sending all together this. So I wanna give you a couple more minutes. And I'm gonna be also emailing people, folks this, so maybe they can help us here too, okay? Don't send it yet because we are gonna be like doing this all together. You're all seeing my emails, I think, right now. Sorry, y'all. But I want everyone to be able to do this together. I think that this is going to take a little more time. So I'm just going to come back to that. I'm going to email that in a second. So the hashtags are down there. Okay. If you, I can't see all, but if you can put a thumbs up to tell me to see if many of you are ready right now, that will be amazing. Okay, give me a thumbs up if you are ready to send. Okay, I see some thumbs up, not many though. Get ready. Okay, some thumbs up. I'm gonna give you a couple more minutes. Okay, folks. Okay, I think that we are good. And with that, I'm gonna count to 3 and we are all gonna send it at the same time, okay? And we go. 1, 2, 3, press send. And there it goes. A waterfall of tweets or Facebook to legislators in order to press them to pass this. Thank you everyone that has participated in this little action, and I will be sending this the toolkit, the social media. So if you weren't able to do this right now, so you can do it as soon as you get into email, because we need for these people to hear our voices. Otherwise, they will not pass this, period. We have been working many years into policy making, and policy making, it is about a lot of times white privileged people that can get what they want to get, but not about our communities getting what they deserve. So if you want to make sure that this is going to our kids, the most marginalized among us, in order for our kids to have healthy, nutritious food, so then you need to make sure that your voice is heard loud and clear. Otherwise, won't happen, people, won't happen. And if you want to, if you really want this, well, you also need to be an activator of the change that we want to see for our communities. Oh, Carla Presidente. Sorry, y'all. I get very passionate because I am passionate about justice. And this is what I do for living. So, okay, folks, I think that I thank you for allowing us to be 20 more minutes with you all. I don't want to take all your morning, but I'm super excited that we had at some point 175 people with us. I will send you the email with the social post. Thank you so much for being with us today. My heart is just exploding right now. So it's like super amazing to see so many people at once. And please email us if you have questions, email us if you have comments, email us if you want to testify when we keep moving later on. So please, please, please. Oh, Anya, can you please put a sign up here? Perfect. So I'm just gonna put a sign up. So if you want to keep here, I mean, I have many of your emails, but if you know an organization or, you know, like want to be a speaker for this campaign, we will love for you to fill out our sign up sheet. It's a Google form in order for you to have your information so we can get back to you and get you as a spoken person. Or maybe you want an event in your community. Maybe you want, you know, us to have like a little community event in a patio, in a school, in a restaurant, in your church, wherever it is. The thing is, if we don't let people know what the hell is happening, they are not gonna be able to like also email the legislators and like, or calling them to talk about this. So thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for emails. Please send me your emails so that way also you can get your gift certificate for your food. Because if we would be in person right now, we would actually be all together. And we will have food, and we will have music and art and many other things. But COVID, we want to make sure that we are safe, and maybe later on we can have an in-person event. In the meantime, we are going to be doing this so we get a lot of you. So with that, what about if we can do a really, I mean, I don't know if people would like to do this, but I like to do this. If you can put your cameras on so we can take pictures and do silly faces, that would be amazing. So,
Carlita.
Yes, Gaby.
Carla, nada más antes de terminar, yo he visto en el chat que hay muchas personas que están queriéndose involucrar, sobre todo que involucren a los jóvenes, y eso me da mucha pasión, me da mucha emoción. Entonces, vamos a contactarlos a ellos para que se unan a esto, y gracias, solo quería decirles gracias, que vamos a estar pendientes para poner comunicación.
Thank you, mi Gaby. Gracias, mi Gaby. Badass community leader, Gaby, Maria Judith, Roberto and everyone, you know, Tana, like community parents that are leading these efforts. Because if we just have like white privileged people leading this effort, that doesn't make sense, people. We have to have community leading these efforts. We have to have people that are impacted by this. Otherwise, we are just like talking like la, 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 butterflies, and that's not a point. So everyone, I want to take a picture. So if you can put your camera on, so I want to be taking pictures so you all can be like all queued up, you know, in our Facebook. That will be amazing. So, I can't make silly faces, silly things with my hands. So you all have to like be sillier than me so I can take pictures. So I'm going to take picture to the one thing right now. Okay, everyone. 1, 2, 3. A ver, another one, just in case, people, just in case. One, 2, 3. Perfect. Again, just a second. There are 6 pages here, folks. So the next page, the second page. Once again, 1, 2, 3. The third page. Oh man. Well, the third pages are not showing their faces, y'all. Oh, that makes me sad. I'm not gonna take a picture of just your names. I want to take a picture of your faces. So just the 2 pages there. But everyone, thank you so much for being here today with us. And like, we are hoping that you are like, even you didn't have time to do the Facebook or the Twitter, please do it, because that's how legislators these days are doing their, you know, like listening to community by literally looking into their social media. So everyone, thank you so much. If we can say amazing bye-bye. That will be awesome.
A todos por estar aquí.
Gracias. Thank you, everyone.
Bye, thank you.
Bye-bye. And my puppy wants to come to say hi really quick.
Bye-bye.
Dale, Alexis.
Adiós, adiós, bye-bye.
Adiós, adiós. Okay, I'm gonna finish this.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.
¿Dónde se pongo?